If you are watching this at 2 a.m. while drowning in guilt because your life doesn't look like an aesthetic study vlog, I need you to take a deep breath. Stop scrolling through those perfectly lit 10-hour study transformation videos. Stop feeling like a failure because you can't wake up at 4:30 a.m. Drink a matcha latte and journal for an hour before rewriting your organic chemistry notes in flawless calligraphy. I spent the last 6 months tracking 100 straight A-plus students, from Ivy League overachievers to medical savants, and I am here to tell you a dirty secret. Their routines are toxic. The flawless, serene, hyper-productive student persona you see on your feed is a manufactured lie, and trying to copy it is the exact reason you are burned out, stressed, and failing to hit your true potential. Let's be completely honest with each other right now. You have tried the aesthetic routine. You bought the expensive iPad, the pastel highlighters, and the minimalist desk mat. You set your alarm for sunrise, fully intending to be that person. But instead, you hit snooze 6 times, woke up in a panic at noon, and spent the rest of the day in a paralyzed state of procrastination. By evening, the shame spiral kicked in, and you convinced yourself that you just lacked discipline. But what if the problem isn't your willpower? What if the blueprint you are following is completely broken? When I started auditing these 100 elite students, I expected to find a secret society of hyper-disciplined monks who never felt tired. What I actually found shocked me, and it completely changes everything we think we know about academic success. The first major realization happened 3 weeks into my research, when I looked at the actual time logs of a top-tier pre-med student named Maya. On social media, Maya posts beautifully edited reels of her neatly organized Notion dashboards and color-coded flashcards. Behind the pastel filters, Maya was surviving on 3 hours of sleep, suffering from chronic panic attacks, and using dangerous amounts of caffeine just to keep her eyes open during lectures. She confessed to me that she routinely cries in the library bathroom because she is terrified that slowing down for even 1 hour will cause her entire life to collapse. That beautiful, organized lifestyle isn't a strategy for success. It is a coping mechanism for severe anxiety. This isn't an isolated incident. Out of the 100 top-performing students I analyzed, over 80% of them admitted to experiencing extreme burnout, imposter syndrome, and physical exhaustion on a weekly basis. They aren't getting perfect grades because their routines are superior. They are getting them by trading their mental health, their social lives, and their long-term well-being for a number on a transcript. They are running on raw, unfiltered survival panic. And the worst part is that mainstream internet culture has repackaged this exact trauma as an inspirational lifestyle aesthetic. We are literally romanticizing a slow-motion mental health crisis. But here is the crazy twist that nobody is talking about. There was a small group of students in my study who defied this toxic norm entirely. This outlier group represented about 12% of the students I tracked. They maintained flawless GPAs, but they didn't look like the others. They slept a full 8 hours every single night. They hung out with their friends on weekends. They didn't have immaculate, color-coded notes, and their desks usually looked like a bomb went off. Yet, they consistently outperformed the hyper-stressed aesthetic students on exams while studying less than half the time. I became obsessed with figuring out exactly what they were doing differently. How were they hacking the system while everyone else was drowning? When I finally decoded their methodology, I realized they weren't smarter than anyone else. They just used a radically different framework that leverages human psychology instead of fighting against it. If you want to achieve elite results without destroying your sanity, you have to completely untangle your identity from the concept of hustle. The ultra-efficient outliers understand that productivity is not about the quantity of hours you sit at a desk. It is about the quality of cognitive focus during those hours. The toxic aesthetic routine forces you into a state of fake work. This is when you spend 4 hours neatly highlighting a textbook or organizing your digital folders while your brain is essentially asleep. You feel productive because you are doing a physical activity related to school, but your brain isn't actually processing the data. It is a massive waste of energy. The outliers completely eliminate fake work, and they do it by using a concept I call friction targeting. Think about the last time you sat down to study and immediately ended up on TikTok for an hour. You probably blamed your lack of focus, but the real culprit was micro-friction. If you have to clear off your desk, find your charger, log into your school portal, locate the syllabus, your brain will choose the path of least resistance every single time. It will choose your phone. The elite stress-free students design their environments to make starting completely effortless. Before they go to sleep, they open the exact document they need to work on tomorrow and leave it full screen on their laptop. They put their phone in a completely different room. They eliminate every single micro-barrier between their current state and the work. But minimizing friction is only half the battle. Once you actually start working, how do you keep your brain from burning out within 20 minutes? The toxic crowd relies on sheer force of will, pushing through headaches and brain fog until they break. The healthy high achievers use an advanced variation of time blocking that adapts to their biological rhythm. Instead of forcing yourself to study for a rigid 4-hour block, you need to work in highly intense short sprints that match your natural attention span. Try setting a timer for 25 minutes, but with a strict rule. During those 25 minutes, you are only allowed to do one single task. No switching tabs, no checking notifications, no getting up for water. Total, unadulterated focus. When that timer goes off, you stop immediately, even if you are in the middle of a sentence. This creates a psychological phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect, which means your brain naturally hates unfinished tasks. By stopping while you still have momentum, you create a subconscious urge to get back to work, making your next study sprint significantly easier to start. During your 5-minute break, you must do something completely analog. Do not look at another screen. Do some stretches, look out a window, or drink a glass of water. This gives your prefrontal cortex a genuine moment to recharge, preventing the cumulative fatigue that usually hits you in the middle of the afternoon. Now let's talk about notes, because this is where the toxic aesthetic trap does the most damage. Beautiful, multicolored notes look amazing on Instagram, but cognitively speaking, they are practically useless. Rereading and highlighting are passive learning strategies. They create an illusion of competence. Because the information looks familiar when you glance at it, your brain tricks you into thinking you actually understand it. Then the exam rolls around, you are forced to recall the information without looking, and your mind goes completely blank. The stress-free genius students do not rewrite chapters. They do not highlight. Instead, they use a brutal but hyper-efficient technique called active recall. Instead of writing down what a textbook says, read a section once, close the book, and force yourself to explain the concept out loud, as if you were teaching it to a 5-year-old child. If you stumble or can't explain a specific part simply, that is your target weak spot. You open the book, review just that specific gap, and repeat the process. This forces your brain to actively construct neural pathways to retrieve the information, which locks it into your long-term memory instantly. 1 hour of active recall creates deeper cognitive retention than 5 hours of passive highlighting. By switching to this method, you can literally cut your study time in half while doubling your comprehension. But what happens when you have an overwhelming amount of information to memorize for a major final exam? The stressed out students resort to cramming, staying up all night before the test, flooding their brains with cortisol, which guarantees a massive performance drop due to sleep deprivation. The outliers use spaced repetition, but not the complicated way you see online with confusing software algorithms.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.